Hey guys, what's up? It's Coach Carroll. I'm super excited. You have seen Frank doing multiple things with me. We put Ignite on a few years ago. It was actually a couple days before COVID for live events. I've spoken his trainings that he hosts for lots of blue collar businesses. And he was recently on the Sales Factory podcast. So if you haven't checked that out, be sure to do so after this special video presentation that we're putting together today. If you don't know who Frank is, Frank brings over 30 years of award winning experience in business coaching. He has deep expertise in leadership, employee development, and building efficient business systems. I mean, this guy is a pro at process mapping, and he offers custom strategies tailored to specific businesses, not just generic advice. And one thing you can always count on for Frank is it's going to be real advice. He's called the real Frank for a reason. It's something that I have grown to appreciate and love very much about Frank in the years that I've known him. This guy's worked at big companies like GE, RCA. He's consulted some of the biggest companies in the blue collar space. And like I said, he's known for his direct, no nonsense approach, but don't let the bark scare you away. There's a ton of knowledge inside of this guy, and I'm as excited today to bring him on to talk about artificial intelligence. If you guys have been following me, you know that there's been three huge technological waves that have hit small businesses over the last 25 years. The first one we call access. That was the internet that happened, right? Yellow pages go out the window, Google becomes omnipresent, and you have to have a website and be online. Second came the attention wave. This is where social media allowed small businesses like us to compete and amplify our voice like big Fortune 1000 businesses out there in the marketplace. But now, this third wave, which I think is the biggest to ever happen to us, is artificial intelligence. And we'll be breaking a lot of stuff down today. I'm excited. I asked Frank to come on so that he could share some of the information that he's finding from businesses that he's working with and some of the stuff that he's doing with AI. What I've always amazed me with Frank is even though he's a few years senior than me, his ability to stay on top of the technology has always been amazing. He quickly transitioned his business to online training during COVID, and the guy knows how to pivot. And I think that just speaks to his decades of experience in the business world. Frank, I always like to think of you, man, as like the general. Like, you know, we're on the front lines and the guys are in the foxholes and the bullets start flying, and you just start packing your Marlboros, right? And you're like, yep, just another battle, right? That's kind of the image I get, man, when I think about you, because you have so much experience. You've helped me tremendously. You've done coaching, consulting in my businesses. And so thank you first and foremost for coming on and spending some time today with my audience, with your audience, so we can talk to them about this crazy shift that's happening with artificial intelligence.
I appreciate that. And it's funny that you mentioned Marlboros. Those are the cigarettes that I used to smoke. I quit in 1988. And thank goodness. I mean, I was smoking like two, three packs a day. And that was my brand,
Yeah, man.
that was it. Um, I'm somewhat semi-retired today. And I kind of slowed down over the last year and a half, 2 years, and started doing less coaching. I still have some customers I coach with. I'm approaching 70 years old, so it's time to slow down. But I'm one of these people that I can't just sit around and go fishing every day. So I'm still involved in investing in some businesses, mentoring people, and coaching others, and love it. I mean, I love seeing things. Knowing that I did something to make a difference and improve someone's life. And that to me is the greatest reward a person could get. And, with my history of working with Sony, RCA, GE, and then coaching with some clients like, United Technologies and Sears Services, um, I've learned a lot. Um, and I've also worked with some small clients, one or two man businesses. But DJ's right. I mean, uh, you've got to keep up with what's going on. And like you mentioned, when COVID started, I thought I'm out of business because I was a public speaker. I had to go to companies and meet with people. Um, I put on workshops, seminars, and now suddenly I'm out of business because I wasn't an essential employee. like some people were, and I couldn't do any work. I couldn't find a place that would host a meeting because it was illegal.
Mm.
And within a 3 week period of time, I modified my business, went online, created a registration system. And next thing you know, I'm doing Zoom meetings. And because I got the idea by watching the news and seeing how kids were going to school on Zoom, and I thought, why can't I do that? So I did. Now, about 80% of my meetings with people is via online Zoom.
Mm.
And it seems to work, which is great. I live on a lake, so I can do my Zoom meeting and go fishing or just go cruising around on a lake, if I feel like it. So I don't have to go travel, and it saves me a bunch of money, which increases my, you know, uh, net profit, which is always a great thing.
That's
But
right.
when it comes to total technology, um, it still blows my mind how some people that I meet who are asking for help, and I ask them some questions, they're still doing invoices by paper.
So
They
bad.
don't have a website. They're not on social media, and they have 10, 15, 20 employees, and they have someone doing their bookkeeping by hand, and it just blows my mind. I mean, I've been using computers um, since they started. I mean, I remember when I just bought a cheap computer that had just simply MS-DOS, and that thing was like $3,500, and it hardly did anything. And then I remember dial-up, um, and things have progressed so much that it blows my mind comparing it to when I started 30 some years ago.
Yeah.
Heck, I don't know if you ever do this, DJ, but I've gone in a chat GPT and I've asked it to tell me what kind of courses, like I primarily work with contractors, what kind of material do contractors need today to become better at what they do and who they are? And what kind of courses could be developed to help them in today's climate, in these industries? So it comes out and it gives me subject matter. So then I take that same subject matter and I ask ChatGPT, develop a course for me that meets this criteria, that's 6 to 8 hours long, that these contractors will gain a lot of knowledge from. And oh, by the way, I want a PowerPoint to go along with that.
Yeah.
A few minutes later, here it is. Um, I have to go in there, tweak it, and make it
Yeah.
more like me. But still, I have a good framework, that something that's there as a foundation to start something from versus writing the whole thing out.
Yeah.
And yet, I mentioned Chat GPT and other methods, AI methods, to people when I have meetings or I meet them, and they're like, "Oh, I don't know, I don't understand that. It kind of scares me or whatever." Um, Heck, I had a situation where my heating went out of my house, and it was still heating, but my electric bill was like $680. I have a heat pump, which was crazy. I mean, it's just running all the time. So, and it was making a funny squealing noise. So I took everything that was going on, the make, the model number of the product, the indoor unit and the outdoor unit, went into AI and asked it, here's the conditions I am having. High utility bills, making a loud squealing noise. Um, it seems to be running all the time. It seems to always be on a backup heat. And it came back and it told me that the most likely cause is the reversing valve. So I called a local company here and I said, I need you to come out and replace the reversing valve. I don't have a license, so I need you guys to come out and do it. And they come out and they said, no, it's not the reversing valve, it's something else. And I'm like, okay, whatever. The next day, same thing. And so I just paid $500. And so they come back out and they say, well, it's the compressor, it's still under warranty. So you'll have to pay the labor. And I said, well, I want money back from that 500 some dollars. So we
Right.
negotiated that. They put in a new compressor. 2 days later, it's the same thing. And then they finally come out the third time. it was the reversing valve. Like I told him, I said, why don't you guys use Chat GPT or some other method? You can go on Google and ask there, and you'll find out. I mean, use it for troubleshooting. There are systems out there that help contractors, servicing contractors who service refrigeration, air conditioning, heating, plumbers, all kinds of stuff, where you can tie that into your current software service management software program and just go in there and say, what's the possibility and probability and percentage that it's this? And then it
Yep.
tells you
Yeah.
I
It's
mean,
it's
baseball
wild, man.
players, baseball teams use everything they do is based on percentages.
Yep.
Oh, this guy's coming up. If he's batting against a left-handed pitcher, his odds of getting a hit are only like 5% versus right-handed pitcher. So I'm going to pull that pitcher. I'll put this guy in. And
Yeah.
I
Real
mean,
time
it's
stats,
all
man.
done on numbers. And if you're not doing that, then you maybe should take a moment and take a look, see what it's all about.
Yeah. What do you think, Frank? Because I love that. I use I use ChatGPT all the time. Like, we recently moved out here to a farm because we were, raising our family. My son was just born a month ago, and so a lot of sleepless nights right now. But I've got a little garden that I'm growing, and like my tomato plants, I put them in. They were doing really really well, and then they just started looking rough. Man, they got yellow, had little spots on them. I'm like, what in the world? I'm not a farmer. Like, this is my third year having a garden. I'm trying to figure this out. Literally took a picture of it, sent it to ChatGPT. I was like, hey, what's the matter with my tomato plant? And it was like, oh, you're showing early signs of blight. You should use this, or this. And I'm like, cool. Give me a link to an Amazon product that I should buy to fix this. It's like, here you go. I'm like, sweet. Order it, come in, spray it, done, dude. The plants are like, I got like 6 tomatoes coming up on it now. And so it's
That's
like
awesome.
using this technology is huge. And that's why I'm always like, my day to day, because we've got a marketing business, it's like, it's always talking about like, how does AI work with sales and marketing? But like, this is why I wanted to talk to you, because like, there's these real world practical applications that you can use artificial intelligence for that I think people just aren't aware of, or they don't know. And like, and if you're in it, like if you're in the space, you're watching it, like, yeah, it's been around for 34, 35 months now. And so you feel like you're like eons into it. But the average American still has never used ChatGPT. They don't
Right.
know what a large language model is. They don't know how to operate with it. I'll give you another prime example of just daily life use, right? Of how like it's making our lives better, aside from business. We had some new windows and doors put into the house, and they were Anderson windows and doors, super high end. I bought them off like replacement market. A guy that had like a surplus store, so they didn't have the door handles. Dude, I've ordered 3 sets of door handles for these things off of Amazon, right? Trying to like figure out what it's going to be, and it's like none of them work, none of them fit because it has to be like an Anderson product. I call Anderson Windows and Doors in Louisville. They don't answer. I leave them voicemail. 4 days later, the lady finally calls me back. But what happened in that 4 day time period, I pulled out my phone and turned on the camera on ChatGPT, and I was like, hey, here's like an up close of like the whole configuration on the door. I need a doorknob for this. It's an Anderson door. It's like, cool, open the door, and inside the hinge, there should be a serial number. Give me a picture of that. I was like, what? I didn't know that's where the serial number was. Open the door up. Oh, there it is. Took a picture, gave it to ChatGPT. It's like, okay, cool. You can go to, I want to say it was like windowdoorsurplus.com or whatever, which is what the guy told me when I bought the doors. He's like, go here and buy it. But dude, it's like a catalog. You got to have the part number or you're not getting anything out of that website, right?
Yeah.
Chat GPT is like, go here. I said, hey, how about this? Just give me the link on that website of the door handle that I need to buy. It literally came back. It's like, here you go. Went to it, bought it, fit perfectly. The lady called me back 4 days later. I was like, hey, I already got the part. Like, it's installed. Like, sorry about you. And they're the authorized dealer, right? So, what happens is like when people think, I think in traditional business, Frank, we think, oh, I got to beat the competition. Well, now the consumer is more empowered than ever. So, somewhat of a competition has occurred now that you've got to have a higher level of service. You've got to, in my opinion, you've got to raise your standards in your business if you want to compete. Because just like you can figure out it's the reverse valve, I can figure out it's blight and have them give me a link to an Amazon product to fix it. Like, you know, the consumer is now moving faster. So if you're one of those business owners, man, that still doesn't have a website, thinks the internet's a fad, don't need to be on social media, this AI stuff, I'm not worried about it. I'm not going to say you're going to go out of business. It's just going to be really hard for you to grow or maybe even contain where you're at. Frank, what's your thoughts on
Yeah,
that?
I totally agree. I had another example. I had painters come in because I've been remodeling this house for a year and a half. It's finally done. And I had painters come in and paint my bathroom. And I have a huge shower in there. So I spend too much time in there because it's like multiple shower heads. It's like being consumed in water. And so it gets steamy in there. And I have a vent fan, but it doesn't seem to be quite enough. And I noticed like moisture lines in on the wall in the bathroom. So I called the painter and they said, well, there's really nothing we can do. And so I went on Chat GPT and is there a special paint that you can use to put on bathrooms to keep this from happening? I took a picture of it. And he said, yeah, you have to get this kind of paint. So I sent that to the painter and he says, oh, that's right. I didn't think about that. So they came back for free, repainted it with that paint. It's been fine ever since. And it's
Crazy.
like, had he used that and thought it through, and he said, I'm going to do that in every bathroom from now on. I just never thought about it. He said, I've heard about it, but I just used the same paint that I use everywhere else. Well, it puts him above the rest because now he has the information and knowledge to keep the customer more satisfied and provide additional quality. I
Yeah.
mean, and he can upcharge his paint for the bathroom. It's more expensive, but you don't have any problems later on. You don't have to go back and do rework. It's that
Yeah.
simple. I've even used it for like I'm an old guy, so I go to the doctor all the time. It's a part of my life. And when I get an MRI, I copy and paste the results into Chat GPT and ask it, what does this mean in layman's terms? And then it tells me.
Yeah.
uh, so I can understand. And then I would ask it like, what could be the most likely cause for this? Here's my history, and here's what I've been exposed to. And it told me, and you know, I don't mean to scare anybody, but it told me most likely I have asbestosis, which is exposure to asbestos, which is causing me some lung problems, which is
Mm.
no big deal. I can deal with it. You know, I use an inhaler and it's fine, but it's not critical. And I don't think it'll get any worse than it already is. However, my doctors never said that. I had to finally go back to a cardiologist and says, here's what I found on Chat GPT. I printed it all out and handed it to her. She said, sorry, I didn't think about this. You know, like, okay, the medical field should maybe take a moment
Yeah.
and look.
I think
Um,
that's coming, Frank. I think the medical implementations and the scientific implementations of it are like math and science. That's the you if you've been in the space, you hear this term called AGI, which is like artificial general intelligence. And so right now, we are to a point where like the models are as smart as any one human being. They have like infinite knowledge, right? They have all the knowledge of the internet. And so we're already there of a one-to-one knowledge base. So that's the artificial intelligence. Artificial general intelligence means that the model is smarter than the smartest person combined. Like you group all the scientists together, all the cardiologists together, and the model will be smarter than all of them combined. When we get to that point, a lot of people are scared about that because they're like, they're going to take our jobs, like South Park used to say. But what happens is like now there is a smarter person in the room that the doctor can consult with. Now the doctor still has to make the decision. Like I don't think we want to like turn our lives over to robots because
mhm.
there is this thing in artificial intelligence called hallucination. And OpenAI has actually gotten worse. I've seen it notably get worse over the last 12 months to where it'll just make up things that are factually inaccurate. So it's always important to check the responses that you get. But I'm super excited for this like AGI piece that we get to. But I also heard Sam Altman the other day, the guy that started OpenAI. He said if you go back to 2020 and you tell the populace what ChatGPT can do now, we would probably say that's AGI. Like we're there, right? And so like
Right.
I think the goalpost keeps moving because we're human beings, so we always want more. We're like, oh, well, yeah, cool. You can draw me a picture. You can fix my tomato plant. You can tell the HVAC guy how to fix my HVAC system and the painter how to fix the paint. But we want more, right? It's like we're always going to want more from it. But
Yes.
but I will tell you guys, there's this model. I took this from Dan Martell. It's called the 10-80-10 model. 10% input, right, from you as the human being. Let AI do 80% of the heavy lifting. And then you need to do 10% revision on the backside. Just like Frank was telling you, he can say, hey, what kind of course should I build? Frank's still got to go in and build that course out and put his spin on these things, so it's actually him, putting this content together. And so that's a really nice framework to live by, to teach your team. If you have team members, 10% on the front side, let AI do 80% of the lifting, and then you do 10% cleanup on the backside. That'll keep you from getting in trouble with the hallucinations, and keep the information flowing. Because I mean, like, the speed in which you can create now, Frank, especially guys like us that are creators, right? Like, we make content, we speak on stages. Like, it's amazing to have this like superhuman assistant just sitting here idle for $20 a month, going, "Hey, man, what do you need me to do?"
Yeah, I'm a statistics junkie, and that's another thing I found, that I can ask it what percentage of this or that, or how many people buy these things within a month, or what causes people to buy one product over another.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, like, because there's so much information out there, you don't have to do any research, or you don't have to call a research company to find out who your typical customer is.
right.
And like, I know who my typical customer is, and I could probably tell you, just doing a little research, what their average age is, how big their company is, what kind of cities they're in or towns or whatever. And that's all pretty much available if you ask AI correctly, give it the right information to do the research.
Yeah, the
And when
right
you're
prompt.
doing marketing, it's something to think about. People like DJ who do marketing, he has groups that do that stuff, that market specifically to the people who will spend money with you. And that's an incredible skill. But I tell you, with AI, it makes it a little bit easier
Yeah.
and a lot less work than actually going out there trying to get all that data. It's there,
Hmm.
but AI just makes it a little easier to get there because it does the research for you.
Yeah, they do. It does the heavy lifting. I'll tell you one of the things, Frank. I'm like, we've made this transition. For those of you guys that don't know, maybe you're listening for the first time. I went through an accelerator in 2021 called Endeavor here in Louisville. We were selected one of 4 companies out of the entire Midwest region. So, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Nashville, Louisville. We were one of 4 companies selected out of the region. And when I went through that program, I learned about like venture capital, venture debt, multiples, how to value companies, things that I had never known, right? Because I've always been a blue collar guy. Like, I had a lawn care business I sold, and then I had a power wash and window cleaning business, and it's like, for me, like, if you're in business, you got to make money or you don't stay in business, right? But like, there's this whole other ecosystem in the tech world where it's like you could just not make money for years or decades and like still be in business, which is still kind of crazy to me to this day. But what I learned in there was like valuations and multiples on like an agency model, which is what we were, right? Like, we were running Facebook and Instagram ads for some of the largest State Farm, Allstate, and Farmers agents across the U.S. We still are, but I realized I was like, hey, AI is coming, right? Like, this thing's coming, and I think it's gonna eat the lunch of these agency models. These that bill a customer for research, bill a customer for copywriting, bill a customer for creative, right? And it's like all these inflated prices that small businesses have to pay. And so I said, okay, I, I think one of the primary principles of being an entrepreneur is being able to look down the street and around the corner before anybody else can. And so that's what I was doing. I was like, hey, this artificial intelligence stuff is going to completely change the game for a lot of businesses, including mine. So I got 2 options. I can fight it, right, and say, no, it'll, like, our business is great. Like, my people are the best in the game. We'll be fine. Which, by the way, technology is undefeated. Or I can say, hey, let's adopt and adapt and make a pivot. And so, like, that's what we did. And so we went to work over like the past 2 years building a platform called Alley, which is our AI platform. And all of our services are 80% done now by Alley. And what that's allowed us to do is keep our prices down. So we didn't have to increase prices through all the crazy inflation that we had. It also allowed us to deliver more services for the same amount of money, right? So I'm over delivering value. But most importantly, it's allowed us to roll out some new features. Frank, you probably have experienced this a lot when you're working with clients. We would have customers that would work with us for 6 months and they would say, your advertising's not working. And I'm like, okay. I just got a testimonial yesterday from a guy who's like, I'm having a record year. You guys are awesome. So it's like, who's lying, right? So then what I would do is I'd pick up the phone and I'd call that customer's business. It'd ring 4 times and then it'd go to voicemail. And it's 1:45 p.m. in the middle of the day, right? And it's like, no, the advertising's not broke. Your systems inside of your business are broke. You don't have anybody answering the phone when a customer
Right.
actually calls and needs
Right.
something done. So we built out Allie's AI voice functionality, which has been super cool, man. So she is basically an AI receptionist, answers the phone. I've had her plugged into Easy Pro, my power washing business, for almost 5 months now, and we have not missed a single phone call in 5 months. I don't care when it comes in, 11 p.m., 11 a.m., 6 a.m. We had a customer last week call in at like 7:45 a.m. If Tina was answering my phones, Tina ain't at work yet, right? Like, so it's going to voicemail, and
Right.
I'm missing that opportunity.
Yeah.
And what's really cool, she even had qualified a prospect a couple weeks ago, Frank. Somebody had called in. They wanted to get their driveway pressure washed. Allie takes down their information. He's like, "Well, I'm just really just looking for a quote. I got a quote from another company for $300. I'm just trying to figure out, like, he was probably shopping, right?" Allie's like, "Well, tell me a little bit about it." Gets the information. Because I have my price book uploaded to her, she's like, "We would be between $800 and $1,000 for this job. So probably not a good fit." So what did I just do there? I disqualified a non-buyer, right? Like somebody that's not my customer. And I saved resources. I don't need my sales guy following up with that guy, calling him 14 times, trying to get a hold of him just to say, hey, the other guy was cheaper. And so if you're using artificial intelligence in your business, it can really amplify what you're already doing. It's not about, I don't think it's so much about taking people's jobs. It's about allowing businesses to do more with less. But at the end of the day, that's why I wanted to do this call with Frank, is like, it can't fix broken systems, right? Like if you don't identify as a business owner, like if you can't say, oh, our problem is actually that we don't answer our phone. No amount of marketing, no amount of sales training, no amount of leadership or management training from Frank is going to fix that. Like systems that are broke will remain broke. And what happens is, I think when you put more technology on top of it, it just amplifies it, and,
Right.
and makes it even worse. So wanted to share that.
Yeah. Thank you. I have an answering service. It's a live answering service. It's 24/7.
Yep.
However, I made their job easy for them because I spent a lot of time putting together about 95% of the inquiry questions or
Mm,
things that somebody would ask, and I gave them access to my system. So if someone calls and wants to register for a workshop or they have a question about a workshop, all the information available to them. I would say maybe 1 out of 20 they have to forward to me. The rest they just handle it. And then I get all the information and the transcripts from the phone calls so I know they're doing it right.
yeah.
Why should I have to do that if I can train people well and use technology to get
Mm-hmm.
them information as they need it just in time?
Yeah.
Then my life is easier. I don't need to field every phone call and talk to
Yeah.
everybody who simply has a question about some workshop somewhere. Somebody else can handle that. I'd rather pay money to somebody to do that.
Yeah, Frank, and I think that works for like a coach and a consultant because you don't have the call volume. What I found,
Right.
because we tried everybody, we tried Ruby, we tried, I mean, if you can think of a call center out there that does marketing and gets in front of small businesses, like we tried them. What I found was that you rotate through people. So there's always like this learning curve. There's always somebody like trying to learn a little bit more about your business because it's like their third day answering calls for you.
Right.
The other side is there's this thing called call surging. And so what would happen is during the busy months, March, April, October, if they have a bunch of power washing guys or, if they have a bunch of roofing companies that they work for and a storm comes through, I would test call, and I encourage all small business owners to do this. Go check your own systems. Go be a customer. Go secret shop yourself often. And so I would call in and they'd say, "Thanks for calling Easy Pro. Please hold." And dude, I'd be on hold for like 2 or 3 minutes. I'm like, I'm hiring an answering service to answer the phone, not put people on hold.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
not good.
that's why I knew that this AI voice piece was going to be huge because she can handle up to 1,000 phone calls simultaneously,
Oh my
which
gosh,
is
that's
which is
great.
insane. And we're working. It's still in beta testing. I give the audience a little teaser. We're actually working on outbound dials as well, so that it could follow up with leads in real time because the I think it was an MIT study showed that like you have a 40% drop off after 2 minutes from a lead coming in. So a lead comes into your business. After 2 minutes, you have a 40% drop off in conversion. The speed to lead thing is a real problem in most businesses. And so, again, man, just always trying to look at the next problem. You solve a problem for a small business. It's like, what's the next problem that there is to solve? Is pretty powerful. Maybe Frank, what are some? I know you're still working with some clients. Obviously, probably not the workload that you used to have when I very first met you. But what are you seeing in some of your businesses? Like we've talked about how you and I are maybe using this like in our personal life. But like, are you hearing anything from your like business clients or the businesses that you're in partnership with, and how they're
Yes.
using AI?
There's programs out there, and I don't remember all the names. Plus, I don't want to advertise anybody because I don't want
I
to
get
pick
that.
anybody up. But there's programs out there that have um, basically do everything for like construction companies, service techs. For example, someone's going out to, let's say, a restaurant because their refrigerators or freezers quit working. They would show up, they would take a picture of the serial number plate and model number plate. The system automatically brings up all the potential problems that could be there. They pick the problem they're having, and it gives them the most likely cause. And if there's any history on that particular product, that software program brings it up and says, well, someone was here 3 months ago and here's what they did.
Wow.
Uh, so it helps them troubleshoot, it helps them identify the parts, gives them the part number, puts them on a link to order the part if they want to do that. If they have a certain vendor, it'll automatically order the part just by a click on their iPad. It will also write the invoice uh, instead of the technician writing it out in his words, and you're like, yeah, I came here, fixed this, and you know, uh, pushed the button a couple of times and it didn't, that kind of stuff. It writes it out in a professional way, that specifically targets what they did and tells the customer what they did. Will automatically email the person who is responsible for that service in the customer's location and send them a bill. Like they don't have to do any writing. They simply show up, take a picture, and then do what it says, and it'll order the part or tell them what part to get out of their truck or whatever. It does the whole job. The key to success is not going out there working hard. I mean, that's kind of important, but it's having the systems and processes in place that makes everybody's job easier. And AI does that.
Yeah.
It'll take care of all the possible potential downfalls within someone's work environment.
Yeah.
And they've been smart enough, the software company's been smart enough to take time to get to know who their customers are and figure out the downfalls, like poor writing skills or someone can't spell right. So they eliminated that possible problem. They can't get the right part. They eliminated that possible problem. Getting the part ordered. Somebody might say, I got to order this part, and they wrote it on a little piece of paper, stuck it in their pocket, forgot about it. So that problem is now eliminated. Communicating with the customer and sending an invoice to the customer. I've worked with companies who in the past, 20 years ago, they're sitting still putting invoices together for work that was done 2 months ago. And like, the worst thing you can do with a customer is not send them an invoice on a timely basis because the longer you wait, the longer it's going to take them to pay it.
Yep.
It's that simple. And you wind up being 30, 40, 50, 60 days, 70, 90 days behind on your receivables simply because you're slow at getting the paperwork out.
Wow.
AI programs that are out there eliminate it. But you know what the biggest obstacle is? Is people willing to change.
Oh.
You,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, so we can talk all day and say all the things that are out there available to make their life easier, improve productivity, improve quality, turnaround time. And but unless someone's willing to change, nothing will really happen. I look at my life. Every day I get up in the morning, I get a cup of coffee, I sit outside, look at the water, I go in, take a shower, and I walk into my closet and I decide what I'm going to wear that day. And I think, and I look at what I'm going to wear that day the same way as what am I going to be that day?
Mm.
Or you can get up every morning and not take a shower and wear the same stuff every day. That's your choice. You want to wear the same outfit all week long? That's your choice. But you have to change. You have to decide on something else. So I pick a different outfit every day depending on what my outcome is. And sometimes I'll wear, Hawaiian shirts. Sometimes I'll dress up more. Sometimes I'll just wear a t-shirt that says something on it. And because that's my attitude that day. And I have goals for that day. Depending on who I'm going to see, what I'm going to do will determine what outfit I'll put on. The same as my goals for that day are going to be different than yesterday because it's a different day. And I have to look at change as a way to continue to improve not only myself, but those things around me and those people around me.
Mm.
Because I don't want to be that same person in a rut.
Mm.
But you have to look at it that way. Get up in the morning, you have to put clean new clothes on. Why can't you put clean new ideas on, and use those, in your daily routine? Like, what can I do today to be more productive, to increase my revenue, decrease costs, improve productivity, improve quality, make my employees happier.
Mm. I love that, man. I told you guys, dude's got a world of knowledge in his head. I'm just here to help extract it out, Frank. Like this is,
Yeah,
I knew this was going to be great because there, when you talk about improving in the change, right? I think about the old Zig Ziglar quote that says the only, or no, it was Nito Cobain said the only person that welcomes change is a baby in a dirty diaper, because like nobody else really enjoys changing. It's
good
difficult,
point.
it's tough, it's friction, right? It's like it's easier just to stay stasis and keep doing the same thing. But I will also tell you I had a team member one time say, DJ, we do goal plan. Company culture is super important to me. Like we got our core values, we do our team meetings, we do lunches and goals. Like I have my team members set goals. I help them to try to achieve those goals, because I think growth is was our first core value. I think people are happiest when they're growing. And some people will say, well, that's not true for everybody. It's like, well, it's true if you work on my team, right? We grow here. But with that being said, I had a team member one time say, DJ, I don't know. I'm not really like a goal setting kind of person. I just, it's kind of like living life, man. It's just like, I don't see the point in it. Why would we do it? And it, and I thought about it for a second. I was like, man, I'd never heard anybody kind of give me the pushback of like, why set goals? We just all kind of assume when you hear set goals, it's like, yeah, set goals. It's how you achieve big things. And it came to me, Frank, that we ought to set goals because we're the only thing on this planet that can, right? A horse is going to get up and eat the same hay and walk in the same field every day. Right? The bird's going to try to
Mhm.
find the worms. The bird's not like, hey, tomorrow I'm going to think of a better way to get that worm, right? And so to me, it's like probably comes a little bit of my spirituality. It's like God gave us the gift to be able to set goals and to achieve them and to go be better tomorrow than we are today and be better in a month than we are last month. And so for that, if you have that gift, if you have that ability, why would you waste it and not put it to use? And because oftentimes I'm notorious for setting too big of goals and then not achieving them, but 80% of that goal that I set is still a really good fucking place to be. And
Yeah.
I think that's a powerful lesson in setting goals. And I also I tell small business owners this all the time. I was on Tommy Mello's podcast last fall. Dude's gonna do probably close to 300 million bucks this year. And I made a point on that podcast to say, like, not everybody is meant to grow a $100 million plus revenue business. It's actually really fucking hard, and you're an anomaly if you're that person, right? And what I think small business owners have to do is say, what makes you happy? And start with that first, because life is a pretty serious game. None of us make it out alive. And so if you start with what makes you happy and then reverse engineer everything from there, you'll notice that changing, doing things better, always trying to improve actually gets you to that happiness, or that happiness level actually increases, because your life oftentimes becomes easier. No one really sets goals to, like, next year we're going to be less efficient. Next year my clients are going to be less happy. Next year my
Right.
employees are going to hate me more. Like, nobody sets those kind of goals. It's always upward trajectory. And I think it's super important. Frank, let me ask you, why do you think more people don't change? Like, what is are they afraid to look at these technological advances? Like, why is the plumber out there in the middle of Oklahoma right now think he still doesn't need a website? Or what do you, because you've worked with so many people, man, what is kind of the overarching theme that you find when somebody is pushing away from change or improvement?
It's pretty much this. They're lazy.
Ooh, I heard some feelings on that one.
I mean, they're afraid of what they don't understand. They're lazy and they don't want to learn. And they're not going to do any research to find out anything about what could happen or where they could go. So
Mm,
they're content with a status quo. Um, it could be psychological issues. It could be something in the way they were raised. Or it could be, I mean, I've had turmoil a lot in my life. I can't believe I've actually done well, and my kids are very successful. But there's times, and I get it because I've met people who their life just sucked, and they're just happy to be not in jail or not living in the street, and they're so afraid of losing what they have that they do nothing,
mm,
because they feel I've got this, I have control over this, and I don't want to screw it up, so I'm not willing to do anything to mess this up.
mm,
Even if, like, I've told people who I've worked with, they've asked me to help them with coaching. And I say, you know what? Here's the deal. If you don't improve to a certain point, and we agreed on a number, if you don't improve your margin by 20% by the end of next year, I'll give you all your money back. Basically, it'll be free coaching. That's how sure I was that what I needed, what I was going to do will work. And they're still. And then I'd go to them, look, you don't have to give me anything. What we'll do is in a year from now, or by the end of next year, let's do this instead. I just want half of the increase that you get if you implement these policies. I just want half of it for that year. And then I'll just take that, which means you're still going to make more money than you do this year. And they
mm.
still say no. And I think it's because they're afraid of losing control over this little box that they
Mm.
have, and they're not unwilling to do the research or to take the time, or just lazy, and afraid to do anything because they might lose this little thing.
Mm. It's that fear of loss, man, is a powerful emotion
It
and
is.
motivator. And sometimes when you think motivator, it's like, well, they're not changing. It's like, yeah, it's a motivator to stay the same. Um, that's why I think I think the other big thing too, Frank, is like your mindset of like high achievers. The difference between them and low achievers is they understand that the knowledge can't be taken away. So even if materialistically or financially, right, you lose, right? The bet you put on the table doesn't work out and you lose. Your ability to spring back is much more efficient the second time around because you have the knowledge. Like, you can go bankrupt and they can't pull any of the knowledge out of your head, right? And one of the things I love all that Jim Rohn used to say, was that we pay these like uber successful people to go around and do seminars and teach us what we should do, when really we should go find the guy that's homeless, that lost his kids and lost his wife, and and had all these problems, and say, hey man, you had it all and you threw it away, tell me what not to do, right?
Yeah.
Because oftentimes that's just as important as the other side. And I feel a little bit of this now, right? I got my family, I got my farm, we're in a good spot, and I'm like, I'm even kind of struggling on this of like, how much how much do you bet now, right? Because used to, man, when you got nothing, it's easy to go all in, right? It's easy to be like, yeah, I'm all in. I only got $5, but it's different as you kind of climb that hill. But what I've seen from guys like Tommy Mello and some of the other mentors that I've got is like, man, most of the time the bet actually works out, and if it doesn't, the worst case scenario isn't near as dire as what you actually thought it was going to be. You can pretty much bounce back. Like I think back to when I lost my gym. It's a $500,000 worth of real estate, a six-figure business. I'm 27 years old. I lose that thing, and I'm like, it's over. Life is done. I like that. That was it. Like this is how DJ goes down in flames. And it was like, nah, man, you just got to bounce back. And it put a chip on my shoulder and a hunger in my belly that I'd never had before. And it allows you to keep growing. But I do think that I call it the big L, man, being lazy. You can't achieve anything in life if you're lazy. And I think that this, you see this on the internet all the time, these like promises of riches without working and passive income. And you can sit on the beach and drink Mai Tais all day long. Like, look at a guy like Frank. The dude is still working, right? Like because there is value in that. I think there is something to be said about a human being that has a that you produce something, right? You help people. You put something out there. You're working. You can't sit on the beach and drink Mai Tais for the rest of your life at 27 years old, right? Like you're gonna get burnt out. It's gonna
Not
get
going to
old.
happen.
It's gonna yeah. It's not gonna happen for the first place, but it's secondly, it's like you'll be done in a couple of years. You'll be like, this is I got to get back to life, or you're like just gonna die alcohol poisoning, I guess. But I think it's super important to know that a work ethic, no matter how many technological advances we have, it can make you more efficient. But it's that old saying is like hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
I always say this, like, I mean, I've lost like my worst thing, my worst investment. I lost $690,000 in 10 months. And I've been divorced 4 times. So they say, men lose an average of like 75% of their uh, net worth every time they get divorced. So I always looked at it like this. Well, I guess I'll have to make more money, you know, and then I go do it. And that's how I look at it. That's the entrepreneur in me. Like that's how I look at it. Well, I have to figure out a way to make more money. And
Mm.
then it happens and you go forth and then you do it. Um, and like I say that to some people, and I say, well, I tell them, well, just go make more money. Well, how do I do that? What can you do that somebody's going to spend money on? There's got to be something you can offer that somebody's going to spend money on, and
Yeah.
quit spending money on stupid stuff. You
Yeah.
know, my dad used to tell me, he said, when you're broke, you only buy what you absolutely need to survive, and that's it. And I mean, I live in a fantastic place, and the house is great. I just bought a new boat. I do whatever I want, but I didn't get there by just going to my job every day. I kept there looking at like, how do I make more? I want a boat, so how do I make more money to buy a boat? Um, then I do it, and it's once you've learned to take those moves and take those leaps into the unknown territory, what I would call it, and you realize, wow, like 70%, 80% of the time, it turns out great. I
Yep.
remember my daughter came to me when she was a sophomore in high school, and she said, and I was just growing my business then. It was still in infancy. And I mean, I was working for General Electric and I left there, started my own company. And she said, so Dad, do you have a college fund set up? And I says, no, I already went to college. And she's not for you, it's for me. And I thought, oh, no, not really. All my extra money goes into my business. I mean, we're cutting corners here and there and doing everything I can because I'm growing this business. And that's back in the days where I'd spend $8,000 to $10,000 a month on mail marketing, before the internet, and just sending out letters and postcards and all that. It costs a lot of money trying to grow a business. So that's where it all went. And I told her, you'll be fine. You'll do good. And you're smart, you'll just work with me. I'll teach you stuff and you'll be fine. So she eventually did go to college and she graduated with a degree in sociology and criminal justice. She got hired by uh, the largest insurance company in the country. And I remember when she got hired and she was just a rep on the phone. And I said, "What are your goals?" She says, "I want to get into management, here or maybe another company." But, and I said, "No." And I said, "That's not the kind of goal I'm talking about." I says, "Where do you see yourself 20, 30 years from now?" And she says, "In a private jet flying around." And I said, "Okay, that's your goal." So about 2 years ago, she sends me a picture. She's flying in a private jet. She's uh she's an executive vice president, and they fly her in a corporate private jet. And
It's awesome.
she makes incredible amount of money, and she's responsible for like 8,000 people, and really successful. And I think it's because she was extremely driven, but she had this goal in her head, which wasn't like, well, I want to make $1 million a year or whatever. It was, I want to fly a private jet. And there's a point where I can do that.
Mm,
And I asked her what her goal is now. She says she wants to be the first female CEO of this insurance company, which is
wow.
possible. It's 2 steps away.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's possible. But she was driven. I didn't give her much to start with. Like, I didn't even pay for her college. I helped her with her books and whenever she needed some cash to buy something here or there. But that's about it. She did it on her own. People tell me, "Man, you must have been a great dad," because I was a single dad. "You must have been a great dad, because their mom died when they were little, like 5 and 7. Um, they turned out great." And I'm like, "No, man, I was getting drunk and taking freaking pain pills every day." And that was during the opiate crisis where, people were just addicted to it. Had to go to rehab and all this stuff, being a slut, going out, picking up women and, and raising my kids. But somehow they turned out okay. I finally got my act together maybe 15, 20 years ago where I really started focusing on being a decent person instead of a scumbag that I was.
Mm,
And it made all the difference in the world. But my kids turned out great because they had a system, a process. This is how we do things in this house. Here's the rules. Here's the potential screw ups. Here's your steps. Here's your ladder to success. Here's some things that you need to do in your life to become better than everybody else. I always told them, I said, "You got to be the most valuable person in the room."
mm,
And they would say, "What do you mean?" If there's 20 people in the room trying to get one job, you have to be the person who has more experience and more knowledge and more know-how than everybody else. And you can't do that sitting around playing freaking video games. You can only do that by learning, reading, expanding your horizons, and finding out about anything that you may have some inquiry in your brain about. Like, go find out how that works. Go do
mm,
some research. When someone brings up a conversation, you should be able to talk about it no matter what the subject matter is, because you're intelligent and you've learned so much. And I push that. And it's the same with anybody in the world. You can only go so far by being in this little tube surrounded by things that don't let you see any further than right here. You got to go out. You got to look and see what's going on over there. What can I learn from that?
yeah, man.
I mean, I do that every day. I'm constantly reading books. I have this program where it summarizes books and it reads them to me. So I'm able to read like 2 books a day through
Yeah.
this just by listening. Why? I'm almost 70. Do I really need to know that? No, because this is my life. This is how I've learned to live, and I don't stop. It just continues.
Yeah,
I
man.
have a girl I'm dating, and every time something comes up, I'm like moisture would build up on a windshield. And I says, "Well, you know how that happens." She said, "Oh, please. I don't need a full explanation." And I said, "Well, it's condensation. It's cause there's a certain psychrometric effects." And she's like, you know, "Why do you know all that stuff?" I said, "I don't know, because I'm curious. And then I want to share it with other people."
Yeah, I think that's the key word, curiosity, man. Stay curious.
Yeah.
I had a coach therapist. I guess they're sometimes they're one and the same. Tell me sometimes that I had childlike wonder. And I think that's like one of the best compliments I could have ever gotten.
Yeah,
That I'm always just, Willow's two right now, and she's like, "Why? What? Hey, Dad, what this? What this? Why?" It's just like I think
yeah,
go back to that place, man. If you're stagnant right now, if you're stale, your daughter's a prime example of that, Frank. That's somebody that has never stopped learning. She's always improving. That company has probably thrown her challenge after challenge after challenge without systems, without processes. And, I think figure out ability, if that's a word, figure out ability is something that is truly rewarded in the marketplace. If you're sitting on your hands, always waiting for your boss to give you the SOP and the perfectly clear blueprint on everything, and it's like, cool. There's jobs out there for that, but you're going to get capped pretty quick. Company needs people that can figure shit out, that are curious, that go and learn. And I love, I think it's a perfect place to wrap this up, man. I love it that you're almost 70 and you're still learning, you're still reading books. And so, it's super encouraging to a guy like myself. Hopefully it's encouraging to the people that are listening. Never stop learning. And that's what this whole video presentation has been about, is like with artificial intelligence. It's like you can't stop. It's not you don't do paper invoices and say, cool, we got to figure it out, right? There's probably a better way. Our second core value is innovation, and that's simply put, is there's always a better way to do what we're doing now. Whether we know what it is or whether someone's figured it out yet could be the question, but there's always a better way to do whatever you're doing. And I think that curiosity, that spark, maybe you don't have that right now, and you're like, man, DJ, I don't feel like that. It's like, spend some time working on it. Spend some time with yourself. I think in this fast-paced world where everything's a button push away, we don't spend enough time meditating, reflecting, in prayer with ourselves, understanding ourselves. I think it was Marcus Aurelius said, to understand yourself is to understand the way. And I think that that's super important and super valuable. So, Frank, thank you so much, man, for everything that you shared with our viewers and listeners today. I know, as always, it's super impactful. Any final thoughts before we let them roll?
no, I mean, I think I put it all out there.
I love it, man. You always do.
I think I'm going to go fishing this afternoon. That's what I'm going to do. It looks like the water's. I'm looking at the lake. The water's smooth, and you know
I love it, man.
the
I love
fishing
it.
here is great.
Living the dream, man. Living the
Yeah,
dream.
thank you so much. I always have a good time
Yeah, man, it's
with
always
you.
fun. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Well, guys,
yeah.
if there's Frank, how can they find you if maybe they're interested in reaching out to you? What's the best way for people to connect with you?
Email me, Frank at therealfrank.com. Pretty
There
easy
you
to
go.
remember.
There you go.
Frank at therealfrank.com. And my phone number's on there. My website is therealfrank.com.
Perfect.
Um, it shows my workshops and different things that I'm doing. So take a look at it. Thank you very
Love it.
much.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And for those of you that are watching or listening, wherever maybe there's probably a link that my team has put here somewhere if you want more information on what we're doing, how we're helping small businesses out. But hopefully this brought you value. No ask, no pitch at the end here. Just wanted to bring some value to my audience, Frank's audience, and the people out there that come across this video. So until next time, hustle, it's worth it. Here's to your success.